Good Tuesday morning of the 21st year. Our Lord, this is St. Matthew's gospel. He's really going at it here. Our Lord is really going at it. And I don't see this as attacking the Pharisees. I think this has to do with the mindset of the early church as well. I mean, it's certainly true now, in my view. He says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites! You pay tithes of mint and dill and cumin." I don't know any of what those stuff is. And have neglected the weightier things of the law. So he's not against that giving, but you're missing the essence of it. What is it? Judgment and mercy and fidelity. Those are virtues. See? But these you should have done. Namely, you're supposed to be given, think of Sunday, putting in the basket, okay? But without neglecting the others. This is a great line. Think about it. Blind guides, you strain out the gnat, how the size of a gnat, and you swallow a camel. He was playing rough with those guys. See? Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, you hypocrites, you cleanse the outside of the cup and dish, but inside you're full of splendor. You're full of plunder and self-indulgence. That's a mouthful. Blind Pharisee, cleanse first the inside of the cup, then outside also may be clean. See, Christ is calling us to the interiorization of the virtues and the laws. He's not taking away the laws, but you have to interiorize them. You do it not because you're out of fear or out of external obligation, but because it's the right thing in the life of the church. Okay? So to attend worship on Sunday, is it the fear of hell? The command by the church to worship, or is it the church is saying to us that we should worship together? We come together to worship because we are obliged as human beings to worship the divinity and as Christians to worship Christ in and through the Eucharist that he gave us, the Last Supper, you see. Do this in remembrance of me. That's why. That's the command. Do this in remembrance of me. See? Remember me, you see. And this is how you cultically remember me in the liturgy in which I am present. See, I am the bread of life, you see. Faith. And the intimacy of faith with the church and her celebration of the Eucharist as we commune together, you see. One body, one Christ, see. One body, one soul, see. It's not because we're obliged. The church did, I guess she needed to, in the end of the 19th century, the beginning of the 20th, and up into our times, for those of you that are in their 70s and 80s and 90s, is because I think the church was full of pious practices, but had lost almost complete worship of the Eucharist, the way I understand it. Maybe I'm wrong, but it began with Pius IX and Pius X, especially Pius X, was the revival of the liturgy. And like so many things done by the church, especially in the early going of the late 19th and early 20th century, was to use canon law. You're obliged. But the whole point of the obligation was to get you to do it. And they used the fear of hell to do it. So that it would become not an obligation out of fear, but an obligation out of love. Do you go to Mass now because you're fearing hell? Do I? No. I go because I'm called to worship. And I worship freely and lovingly. You see? As I hopefully maintain the moral order, not out of fear of hell at all, but because it is required by human dignity and human excellence to be Plato, to be a good citizen, to be a good human being, and guter Mensch, as the Germans say, and guter Mensch, a good human being. You see, not out of fear, not afraid of anything. I'm not afraid of burning in hell. If I have a fear, it's that I will live and act in a way beneath my dignity as a human being. And I even go further, not only as a human being, but as my own particular person, with my last name and my membership in the order. I want to be always a good Passionist, a good Vitali, I told you, I know I must have done one of these things, that my mother's words to me were when I left home in 1959 to become a passionist when I joined the order. She said, never betray the family. No, it was at ordination. I'm sorry, it was 10 years later. It was 1969. Never betray the family. And what she meant was the family name. I told you what my father said. He put it a little bit more eloquently. He had a better command of the language than my mother, even though she was educated. My pop wasn't in that full sense. He said, don't make a goddamn fool out of yourself. That's the way he put it to me right after ordination. We were walking to the car, and there was a time priests were leaving, and I told you that, and they were getting in the news. Don't make a goddamn fool of yourself. Meaning you can leave, do whatever you want. You want to get married, do whatever you want. But don't dishonor our name. Don't make a damn fool out of yourself. Imagine the old man saying that. I mean, the oil is not even dry, the holy oil, okay, from ordination. It's not even so-called dry. And my mother and my father. Don't make a goddamn fool out of yourself. Don't disgrace us. Don't dishonor our name. Boy, if that isn't part of my culture, I don't know what is. See, it's not a case of, it's the fear of being less than noble. It's the fear of being a fool. See? On the other hand, what my mother and father taught me, Frank Sinatra sang, do it your way. That's my favorite song. When I die, I want the recording of Frank Sinatra singing my way. And I hope they'll remember me when I'm dead. He did it his way. Vitali way. It was a good way. But it was his way. He did it his way. But it was a good way. See? That's the truth. Now, I told you one of the fellows died who was certainly an eccentric in the outfit, okay? He didn't conform very well, but a great compliment when he died. He was a pleasure to live with. That, wow, I was 60 years ago. I heard that, 50-something years ago, way over 50 years ago. I never forgot it. What a great compliment of life. He was a pleasure to live with. See? He was ein guter Mensch, a good human being. You'll see, I would say he was a good monk. You know, he was a good guy. He was a good guy. He was fun to live with. He was good to live with. You never heard that. Some of the guys that were pious, they were maybe been pious, but they weren't exactly good to live with. This guy was good to live with. With all his flaws, he was a delight. Well, see, it's not bad, huh? And guter Mensch, yeah. I think the Council's greatest contribution was the interiorization of the faith and the moral order, not the keeping of canonical rules and law, but love. That was John the 23rd. And I thank Paul VI, but John articulated it when he called the council. It was love. Love one another. Look out for each other. Take care of each other. That's the most important, second commandment. Love one another. Love your neighbor. Christ said, love one another as I have loved you. Take care of each other. Look out for each other. Well, don't disregard the rules and the law. He says it here. But what's most important is judgment, mercy, and fidelity. And I would say that's what love is. It's tender mercies. See? It's judgment. But it's always in the bottom line, fidelity. Be faithful to whom and to what you have been called to. Be faithful. And that doesn't mean keeping your nose clean. It means being actively engaged in loving other people, and especially those special people, your spouse, your children, whomever God has given you providentially to walk with in this life and to love. Yeah. And don't be a rule keeper. Don't worry about the. Don't go swallowing any camels. That won't be the lay people. That, if anything, could be the clergy. Be careful. Not today, but it certainly was years ago. There were many a gnat that was misinterpreted as being camels. They really were camels. In other words, they turned a gnat into a camel. Put it that way. Trivia were overblown. Moral, and in many cases, moral trivia were exaggerated at that time. Not anymore. Thank God for John the 23rd and the Council. Finally, the gospel of love, not canonical obedience.